What is up, everybody? Welcome out, 6 o'clock live stream.
What's going on, everyone?
Justin looking a little more fresh today. Each week, he's looking better and better. Thank you for all hanging out with us tonight. We have some real cool stories to talk about. The main story going to be the Milton Zeis School of Tattooing. If you want to
Absolutely.
call it a school, but we'll get into that as we get a little further. I definitely have a couple things that I want to talk to you all about, and we'll go from there. Going to start off the night with a real quick, funny story that happened to me yesterday.
Okay.
So this way we give time for people to jump in. We had, so I was at the grocery store and minding my own business, and getting my stuff on the conveyor belt. And
Do you go through self checkout or do you actually have somebody check?
It depends on how much stuff I got.
What's the line of demarcation?
Probably like 20 things. So there's an older lady in front of me. And she's bagging her groceries with her bags that she brought because she's watching the environment, which whatever, cool. So I'm like, okay.
I mean, I bring my own bags to the
whatever. I'm not saying anything bad.
It's not about the environment, it's they're easier to carry.
I am giving you the scenario because it's going to wrap up into a nice little
I'm just interrupting at random.
Anyhow, I'm minding my own business. I kind of she's off to the side, and I'm making sure I got all my stuff square. And the lady goes, now we're talking older, probably in her 70s. She taps me on the shoulder and she's like, "Excuse me, hon." I was like, "Yes." She's like, "I'd like to give you this. This guy was fabulous for me. He helped me out so much." I looked at the card, I smirked, and I put it in my pocket, and I was like, "Cool, thanks. Appreciate it." The lady finally gets her 100 bags of her self-brought canvas bags into her cart and walks away. I look at the cashier and I go, "Do you believe that old lady had the balls to hand me a weight loss doctor's card?"
Ouch.
And the girl was like, "I got to tell you something, dude. You handled it very well." So you guys all know I'm a big dude. I don't hide from it. I don't run from it. I mean, Jesus Christ, we call this thing two fat guys in a tattoo shop. So I don't have a problem. I might have some self whatever issues or whatever, but look, for the most part, I own up to it. I don't really care. But to have that handed to you, she knows nothing about me. Meanwhile, I have this giant jacket on, right? For all she knew.
Did you have a lot of food with you?
No, dude, I had water and I had all healthy shit, to be honest with you. But the thing is so it wasn't like she could look at my stuff and it was like a belt full of junk food, right? It was all healthy shit. And but for all she knew, dude, I could have been this fucking man, I cursed already. I could have been this jacked up dude with 12% body fat, and she wouldn't have known any different because of the jacket that I was wearing. I was wearing my black one, the button-up one that I always wear. So you can't really tell. But just the balls on somebody to be like, "Hey, let me hand you this weight loss card." I was like, "Hey, dude," and I just was like, "All right, cool, thank you." So
Ouch.
yeah, that was my day yesterday.
So do you know the movie Gru? The kids movie Gru?
No.
With the Minions?
No.
All right, so in the kids movie Gru, the first one, there's actually like 4 of them plus a couple spin-offs. They try to steal the moon. And believe it or not, Gru came in here yesterday. Different cultural things, right?
Right.
Guy comes in, Eastern European guy, right? And another thing about Eastern European people when they come in, if they don't speak English, is they sort of ignore you for a couple minutes.
Right.
Like, so me and the guys that work here will be like, "Hey man, what's up?" And they just don't engage.
Because they're probably in their head trying to collect their thoughts on how they're gonna.
And it's not overtly rude. It's just something I've come to expect.
Yeah.
And so the dude uses Google Translate, points me, gives, and incidentally, Gru, who's played by Steve Carell from The Office, is Eastern European. Shows me the phone, and it says, I want to invade the moon.
So Google Translator completely jacked that one up.
I mean, or maybe he thought this was a rocket, like a rocket store. Maybe he thought we had laser arms in here.
Sir, this is not SpaceX. But you were
I
saying
want
he
to.
was one of my peeps, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
man,
I think he wanted a hair. The general consensus is he wanted a haircut because the barbershop's 2 doors down. I mean, he was like pretty decent dude.
So nothing for nothing, but let's put this into perspective real quick. How many times have you used Alexa and it's gotten it completely wrong? So think about a Russian guy who's speaking Russian who might speak with like a mush mouth, like jumbled up kind of, right? And it's trying to interpret what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like you have to be like really super clear in order for that transcribe thing to work right.
Mm-hmm.
Because when my mom was in the one rehab facility, there was a Russian lady that was her roommate, and I was trying to talk to her because I could pick out like here and there or whatever, and then I was trying to use Google Translate, and man, let me tell you, it got some stuff really wrong. And she looked at me, and I was like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? Like, anyhow, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, and we are going to get to the Milton Zeis thing. I thought we could try to build up to it and allow some people to come in before we get into the main topic for tonight. You and I have actually talked about this on a couple different occasions, but I happen to be editing a video for the interview I did with Austin Pratt. And towards the end of that video...
It's a rough name.
Austin C. Pratt.
Pratt.
Yeah.
In Britain, isn't that a
slang?
Yeah, call somebody a Pratt?
I don't know.
Tom, you there?
Anyhow, so we got into discussion where we were talking about social media and how now tattoo artists these days have to use social media as like your advertisement, whereas before it was like word of mouth and the old carnival barker style of, hey, I'm the greatest and blah blah blah. And then we got into the fact that how people get pissed off if the tattoo artist doesn't post their picture. And I thought it was funny because you and I have talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is, there will be people that will get butthurt or whatever because they don't get their picture posted. But you have to think of it like this. Not every tattoo that a tattoo artist does is postable. And I'm going to give you an example, and maybe you guys can agree.
Jaws.
Well, we'll do the other one first because I don't know if a lot of people... I didn't even get the reference, so we'll go with mine first. What about somebody that comes in and says, hey, man, my little kid drew this picture. I want to get this tattooed. Now, obviously, it's a little kid. It looks wonky. It doesn't look right. And you do it, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm happy to do that tattoo for you. That's probably one that you're not going to post because you're going to be like, dude, I don't want anybody to think that, you know what I mean? And then you gave your reference to the Jaws thing.
Right.
Go ahead.
So in the movie Jaws, during the scene where Quint introduces himself, he draws a stick figure shark eating a stick figure kid. And a friend of mine got that tattooed on them because she's a Jaws fanatic. And I got roasted by a couple people on Facebook about it being the most terrible shark tattoo they'd ever seen. And then when I caught what they were saying, I had to like post the clip.
Right.
That this is an iconic image from a 1970s movie. The other thing, I hadn't thought about this earlier, was people will come in, especially for relatives that have passed away, and get their signatures done.
Right.
Right. So
some people don't have the best handwriting.
Yeah, something that was maybe written in a card. And yeah.
I think the thing is that it just really comes down to, and I actually said this to him during the interview, of the meme that it went around for a while where it was like the dude was crying about the tattoo artist didn't post my picture. But in reality, man, I think that there's going to be times where you just, look, it's not appropriate. Or like, what if you did it as a favor for somebody and it's really not the style of stuff that you put out there? Because on the Sailor Eddie video, he was even saying about how like what you put out there is what you're gonna get customer wise.
You know the movie, the puppet movie American Freedom Force or whatever it is,
Yeah,
with the puppets, and then there's like the meme.
it was the South Park guys that did it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
meme where the one puppet's he's thrown up.
yeah.
So I saw a meme of that where it said tattoo artists looking at their own tattoos and paintings. And a lot of customers don't realize that most tattooers, when we look at the stuff that we've done,
Mm.
right? I recognize the flaws.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a computer. I don't print out perfect
Tattoos every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So and to qualify it, I look at tattoos the way an engineer looks at the construction of a house.
Mhm.
There's nuances that I might see, or you might see, or another tattoo artist might see. The shape of the eye, the
Right.
relationship of the eyes to the chin, the size of the hands, that I will absolutely give another tattooer a pass on.
Right.
Like I'll look at the tattoo, be like, "That's nice," or I will look at my own tattooing. There's like an 8-week, and this is crazy. There's like an 8-week cooling off period. So if it's February now, I'll look at tattooing from like November, and I'll be like, "Yeah, that's pretty nice. I'm glad I kind of nailed that one." But the moment that I looked at it when it was done, all I saw were the defects.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it, right? Self-critical.
Being a neurotic artist.
So, but I think I just want to say, like, hey, man, if your artist doesn't post it, it's
Maybe they just don't like you.
Or it could be that. I mean, hey, you could be a total jerk off, and they're like, you know what? I'll never post that guy's stuff. But I just thought it was funny that it came up during that interview, and while I was editing, I was like, oh man, me and Justin have actually had this conversation. And part of it was that, I was trying to help you square up your Instagram and stuff like that. And we were talking about posting like every picture. And Austin actually says that. He says that he was going to do this thing where he was going to post every day, like every tattoo that he did. And I don't know if it was a shop owner or another tattoo artist that was like, whoa, dude, don't do that. That's bad. Because like you just said, man, not every tattoo is perfect. Not every tattoo subject is the right thing. Because he even said, he goes, man, like sometimes people just come in and get a letter. Well, if you see that posted on Instagram, you're just going to blow right past that anyway. Or, and we talked about this earlier, what if you did do that tattoo of that your little kid drew or the little kid drew for that person, and you think it's cool, and hey, it's cool, the person loves it because their kid drew it, you did it. Nobody's going to take the time to actually read the comments or the thing under the picture. They're just going to go, that guy's a shitty tattoo artist. Go by.
And the other thing too is that when people there's a tattoo artist that's done 3 of my largest tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
None of them have been posted because they took like 6 months each. So by the time he finished, by the time of the last sitting where
so it's different shades.
Yeah.
Like my knee's going to wind up being.
Yeah.
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 So we got a bunch of people in. Before we get into these other stories, man, let's say hello to everyone.
Is Fudo here?
Fudo is definitely in. Chris Hawkins is hanging out. Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
OG Sarah. We got Nikki, our moderator.
Nikki.
We got Medusa's Noggin, and I'm going to read his comment in a second.
The Noggin.
Bill O'Connell hanging out.
Mr. O'Connell.
And Fat Cracker. What's up, brother?
Fat Cracker.
Bill O'Connell. I don't know if I said Bill, but
yeah, you did.
There you go. You get it twice tonight. So
a friend of Bill O'Connell.
There you go. Medusa posted, came across Zeis ad while watching Ed Hardy doc for the 100th time. Turns out he spent a bunch of his time in Rockford, Illinois, my hometown. Turns out he's buried in the same cemetery as my mom. Wild. First off, sorry to hear about your mom. But that's pretty cool, man. I think that next time you happen to maybe go home, I know you're not living in Illinois, but maybe get a cool headstone rubbing. That would be pretty awesome. I mean, I'm just saying, I would do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I got a Sailor Jerry rubbing.
Well, I have the one for Cap Coleman that I got down in Norfolk, man, which
I really appreciate how you made me one.
I really didn't have too much of a choice. It was basically Dana Brunson passing out the paper and the crayons, and I just happened to be standing there in line, dude. I just happened to be a recipient. So thank you, Dana, for hooking me up. But
I ran across my Danish shirt a couple days ago. I went into my, I have like, do you save your shirts after you outgrow them?
My Harley ones, because my wife is gonna do a quilt eventually, where it has all the cool patches on the back. So if you're home listening, I did remember.
Yeah. If you're watching, I'm a 2X or 3X.
So,
but what was I at? Oh, so I have like 2 or 3 bins of old T-shirts, and I ran across my Dana long sleeve. I have like a really nice Dana.
Nice, man.
Yeah, it's got it's.
Well, when I go out there in the spring or summer, man, I'll grab you one if he's got any. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to do a quick Ohio tour at some point in the spring or the summer. I'm not sure which one yet. But Chris Hawkins actually posted a comment that I'm going to put up on screen right now. It says Mike Chambers wanted to mine, but was too pissed off for a decent pick. So basically, I guess wanted to post his tattoo that he got done, which ironically enough, let me just double check. I think I have check that out, Chris. This is the tattoo that Mike, yeah, Chris actually posted it on his community page and tagged me. The community thing didn't work as I thought, by the way. So, but that's the tattoo. So I figured I'd put it up and let everybody get to see it, man.
It's a sweet T-shirt.
Yeah, right. It's Las Vegas. No, Viva Las Vegas. But
really, the Rockabilly convention,
dude, that's a pretty sweet tattoo, though, man. Kudos to you, man. That's awesome. Hopefully you guys heard that, because I wasn't sure if the audio was going to work during that. So you might have had a moment of silence there, but
any other trips planned?
Yeah, I have a bunch of, so I have conventions that are local that I'm going to be hitting up. And thank you for reminding me, my man. Did you see my screen? Is that why? I'm going to post that up. So the official dates for the Reno Tattoo Convention are up May 30th, 31st, and June 1st. We will be there. I will be there. Justin, not 100% sure yet, but I will definitely be there. I'm going to have a booth.
I'm going to start a GoFundMe to get to the Reno convention.
Don't do that, dude. Not after you just had your GoFundMe for your surgery stuff, dude. But yeah, so gonna have a booth, gonna be interviewing. So if you're near Reno or in Reno, or if you're a tattoo artist that's listening and you're gonna be in Reno, make sure you get with me, man. I want to interview anybody and everybody, including people that are just walking around. I'm gonna try to have merch. I'm gonna try to have some stickers. I'm gonna be showing some videos while we're there. So I'm gonna try to make it as cool as I possibly can.
Remind me to talk to you about that after the show.
Okay. Okay.
It was something, yeah. Remind me.
But yeah, Chris, that is a pretty awesome tattoo, man. Totally dig that. So yeah, Lady Luck Tattoo Expo, Reno, Nevada. You could check out the page. It's ladylucktattooexpo.com is the page for it. So hopefully I see some of you guys. That'd be awesome to run into some people. So I'm going to try to play this and hopefully it works. See if I can get this to work. I found a really cool reel and I thought it'd be cool to share with you all. It is a reel of a 100-year-old lady in the UK getting her fourth tattoo. I just said whore. I called some 100-year-old lady a whore, and I apologize.
Well, I mean, she is tattooed.
How dare you, sir? Let's make sure. I'm going to add it to the scene and let's see what happens. All right, looks like it's going to work. And of course, here we go.
A pine box.
Wow, dude. How cool is that, dude? How awesome is that, dude? I mean,
So when they were playing,
kudos to her for being 100 years old,
did
getting
they
a
hear the
tattoo.
joke?
I don't know if they could hear the joke or not. I think they can.
I apologize.
What do you think it would be like to tattoo a 100-year-old skin?
Like
tattooing paper mache?
Yeah, I think it would. He was using a new machine, right? He was using a pen. He wasn't using a rotary machine.
To be honest with you, I don't even know.
I think he was using a pen.
I mean, I just thought to myself, that's got to be some really, really thin, brittle skin, man, to be doing that. That's good for her, though, man. 4 tattoos, got her 4th one at 100 years old.
I mean, I tattooed my buddy Mike. He's like 115.
Well,
his skin's still pretty good.
Yeah, but you could see her skin in that clip, man. It looked very brittle. It looked crepey. Yeah, like it. I was like, man, okay. So yeah, you want to get into the Milton Zeis School of Tattooing?
The Zeis School of Tattooing.
The only reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I found out obviously about this a while ago. I know at some point, I think it was in the Cliff Raven episode, I talked about him getting machines and some pigments and flash or something from Zeis. I think it was Cliff Raven. But anyway, in this day and age, we talk a lot about, anybody can get tattoo supplies from anybody, and a lot of the legit places are like absolutely not. I forget what page it was that I saw the other day that said they actually showed how many orders canceled and how much money that they lost out on by people that were not legit tattoo artists ordering stuff from them. It might have been Kingpin Supply. I'm not sure.
So I'm fairly certain that you have to. I know for certain that Lucky Tattoo Supply requires a proof of shop ownership, and I'm fairly certain that Bickney does too. I don't know about Kingpin.
Okay, so it might have been Lucky that I saw. One of them actually posted that they're on their Instagram page, how much money they missed out and how many orders they canceled. But it kind of brought me back to this. First off, let's explain the school, because it's not school like we're thinking school. It was more of a correspondence.
Okay, so so this book is called Tattooing as You Like It. To be honest with you, it's not the best put together book, but I think it's from Yellow Beak Press, and it's got a lot of information about Zeis in it, about his school, his history, and then the majority of the book, the last probably 2/3 of it, is his flash catalog, reinterpreted by modern artists. So he actually had 2 schools. He had a tattooing school, and then he had a tattooing business school,
right,
to teach how to make money. Zeis School of Tattoo Marketing, not marketing, but tattoo marketing, and that's the famous picture of him. I will teach you a profitable profession. So his correspondence course was 10 lessons.
And let's explain the because I had actually asked Justin this, and we found some of the information in the book. So he would send you some pictures. You would learn how to trace them, learn how to draw them, and then you would send the stuff back to Zeis.
With postage.
Right. And then he would kind of grade them or whatever, and then send them back to you.
Right.
But you had to include postage, so or he wasn't going to send them back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the course was like $125 from what I saw. But I found it interesting was that first page right there, the questionnaire. Do you want to go through that real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go through some of the questionnaire of the this is what you would get, I guess, if you inquired about the school.
So an odd thing about this book, though, is that the second lesson is not included.
Okay.
So the first lesson is 7 questions. In your opinion, how old is tattooing?
Thousands of years old.
I wrote down tattooing didn't exist until Guy Atkins started. No, I'm only kidding. Where was it practiced?
All over the world.
Can fish be tattooed?
I said no, but then Justin said, "What about a shark?" And I said yes.
Big fish.
So yes, you could a shark, but not fish with scales.
All right. So how many different colors do you think can be tattooed?
So here's the answer to this, and I'm going to explain it real quick because we're not talking about now. We're talking about what, 1940 something.
Well, I'm going to say
okay,
30s maybe.
So back then there was only 4 colors. Now there's probably a couple hundred different variations of colors. So, that question's not really pertinent for this day and age, but back then, I mean, he's asking you, the 4 colors. And what were the 4 colors? Black, red, green.
Black, red, green, and brown.
Brown. There you go.
And then Jerry was the first guy to have purple.
Right.
Is there any place on the body that cannot be tattooed?
Your eyeballs and your teeth.
Yes. Is it possible to tattoo scars and match the normal skin?
No.
Is tattooing painful?
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. I guess you would fill that out and then they would send it back and you would have to kind of, he would say, okay, you're accepted. And here's your first lesson, which is basically how to trace.
No, the first lesson has to do with lettering, using good lettering in banners. He goes into Old English and script. Lesson number 4 is about drawing the face, hands, and shading. Or excuse me, yeah. And then the other thing about lesson number 4 that's super interesting is that Zeis suggests that you make a tracing mechanism where you backlight a design and trace it and cast it to the wall.
Right. So that's almost like a projection.
Yeah, like a projection device.
Right.
Lesson 5 is about making flash. And this is the one where what he did in lesson number 6 is he gave you 6 sample designs. You painted them, you sent them to him, and then he sent them back with his criticism.
Okay, so that's where he would do the reply back to say, hey, look, you're doing okay, or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
And then 6 is about making the stencils. And 7 is about the tattoo machine itself, talking about yoke, springs,
right,
coils. Lesson number 9 is the needle jig, the creation of the needle bars.
Now, let's talk about this real quick. How pissed off do you think the tattoo artists of the time were with him coming out with that?
So Zeis's stuff was bought by Spalding, like Spalding and Rogers, right? Huck Spalding, Paul Rogers. When Zeis got out of the business, Spalding bought his stuff, and then there was one of the first tattoo conventions, and somebody threatened Huck's life.
Okay.
Somebody sent out wanted posters that said "shoot on sight."
Wow.
Right, and obviously,
Right.
Yeah, you know. And then Huck pretty famously said, "Hope he's coming heavy,
Right.
because I am."
So it's funny that you bring up Huck Spalding, because I know that when I was doing my Coney Island research, I actually happened to run across. I was looking up for information for Coney Island Freddie,
Right.
and I came across Mike Perfetto doing his Viceland episode, where he talks about going to Huck Spalding's place up in New York,
Voorheesville.
upstate New York,
Yeah.
to
Where I
go.
bought my first kit.
His dad actually took him up there to get a kit. And Huck sold him the kit, and then started to be like, oh, you do this and this, and then another customer came in or whatever, and Huck was like, I don't have time or whatever. Hey, do you have somebody that can show you how to do this? And he was like, oh well, yeah, my uncle is Coney Island Freddie, and he was like, oh, okay, cool, that he'll help you out. But the point is, at that point, Huck was ready to sell somebody stuff that was not really a tattoo artist.
Absolutely.
I had no business getting any, you know what I mean?
When I bought my first kit,
I need to back up real quick. I think the premise of that discussion, though, was Perfetto had gotten the number off of somebody that owned a shop or something. That's how he got the number and how he got the information. I can't remember the whole story. He might have actually looked him up in the phone book or whatever, but
or Tattoo Magazine.
I can't remember, man, and I wish I could, but I'm shot in the head.
Because for years, Spalding ran beautiful, huge full-page ads.
Yeah. So but what I'm saying though is where I'm going with this, long-winded, but he was going to sell him that stuff, and he was not really a tattoo artist. He just basically was like, hey, well, how'd you get my name?
Right.
And then they said, I got it off of blah blah blah. And then I'm actually mixing up Ronnie Delacqua's story, I think, but either way, it doesn't matter. As much as we complain about that now, it was happening back then.
So who's, I mean, including Zeis, right? I mean, Zeis might have had the course, but Wagner sold machines. Who else?
Percy Waters.
Waters sold machines. I don't
Later
know.
on would have been like Bob Shaw.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and then some of them would send you the
Colonel
machine.
Todd.
Yeah, some of them would send you the machines unassembled.
Right.
With a little note that said, if you can't put it together, you don't deserve to use it.
So another thing that I found interesting, though, was in the little bit of research that I did about Zeis. Zeis was one of the first ones to sell colored flash.
Okay.
So it wasn't just the black and white; it was colored in flash. And I'm going to double check that while we keep talking, but
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure. I think I actually saw that on Tattoo Archive. I'm not saying Tattoo Archive is always correct, but it's out there in the world. The other thing that was kind of interesting was that I also read that he started the first national tattoo association or something to that effect.
Maybe a club, but definitely not National Tattoo Association.
All right, so let me check my notes here because I want to make sure I'm not giving out bad information.
So when I bought my first machine, right, I went up, got my tax refund.
Go ahead.
Went up to Voorheesville, bought my tattoo kit, went home, and was open for business. So I think I drove home. I was reading the book, and I'd been getting tattooed at this point for about 4 or 5 years. I'm reading the how-to tattoo book in the back seat of the car, driving home, and then just sort of went to work.
What's up, Lowe's? What's up, Artie? Welcome to the party. Yeah, so I'm going to correct myself. So he didn't sell the first colored flash. He created more interesting and colorful catalogs than had been previously available. The course actually cost $125, and back then that was a lot of money in 1947 or 51. 20 lessons sold for $125. And then the governor of the state of Illinois actually gave it accredited the course as a home study program. Here it is. This is the other part that I had to double check my facts on. He was active in tattoo circles and founded the International Tattoo Club. So there you go. I mean, another thing that I also found interesting was he was into being a clown,
Yeah.
and he went by Uncle Milty, which is I always think of Milton Berle. Was it Milton Berle, Uncle Milty?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was weird.
He was also on a game show.
Yeah,
Tell the truth.
that's it.
But
Sarah
so
with the $5. Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah?
Yeah, so let's get back into the. So he was selling flash. He was selling pigment. He sold the course, and then he also had a side business where he was basically trying to tell you how to or teach you how to run a proper
How to make it profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, obviously this is completely different than any type of tattoo school that we're talking about now, because they're actually like, in there with the teacher and doing fake skin, or hopefully doing fake skin and not somebody, and trying to teach them and blah 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 and all that stuff.
I mean, the thing about the tattoo schools is like when the automotive school says we have 98% job placement, they fail to mention that 40% of those jobs are at Jiffy Lube.
Or McDonald's.
Right.
Right.
I mean, they, be a union auto mechanic at a dealership, earn this,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, that's not always the case. So the thing with tattoo schools is like, if I have somebody pay me to come to my tattoo school, and then I have enough existing tattoo shops that are making enough money to keep the doors open, I can guarantee you job placement,
Right.
right?
But most shop owners in this day and age find out that you are a tattoo school diploma holder,
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting hired.
Unless,
Or I actually know somebody that I don't want to say her name, but I did interview her. She did go to a tattoo school because she lived in the middle of Jabip. Like, she had nothing around her. She lived in the woods.
is that by like Pig Snout?
Yeah, and right around the Moose Rock. And she did do that. Bill O'Connell with the $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. She wound up getting hired at a tattoo shop that was pretty well known tattoo shop. I think the girl might have been on Ink Master or whatever. So, and she worked there for like 8 months, almost a year, and then all of a sudden they found out that she went to a tattoo school and fired her right there on the spot. And she was like, "Well, you knew about that when I walked in the door. I told you that right off the bat." And the girl was like, "Oh, I didn't know. I must have not paid attention or whatever." So,
But what I'm saying is that if so there is a tattoo school locally that's associated with a chain of tattoo shops,
okay,
and when you graduate from that school,
you get placed into one of the shops.
into one of their shops. Now, if I'm making my money primarily off my tattoo school, right? Charging people $10,000 for an 8-week course.
Right. Do you really give a crap about the tattoos that are coming out of your shop?
And the shop only has to break even, right?
Mhm.
Because
Or not, because it could be a business write-off.
could be a business write-off. And if the kid that I brought through my tattoo school comes to me and is like, I can't make a living, well, it's on you, buddy.
Right.
Shop's been there for 18 months.
Well, nothing for nothing, but for-profit education is it's a shit show to begin with. So on top of that, you're adding a super like niche thing. And I know for a fact that when I interviewed Eric Perfect, he talked about the different tattoo artists in Philly running tattoo schools out of town. And he said at that point, like, it didn't matter if you liked the other tattoo artist that showed up for this or not. At that point, you loved each other because you were there to fight this tattoo school and they wanted them out of town.
Yeah.
So these, we could have had two people that were on both sides of the fence, hated each other, but they showed up that night at whatever coffee house they met up at. And they were like, boom, we're going after this tattoo school. It's over. We're taking them out. Whatever they did. I don't know. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but
and then for a while there was like sort of through social media, I became aware that there was there was almost like a predatory thing that was happening where people were looking at shops that weren't doing that well.
Okay.
So they come into your shop and they're like, you know, we'll give you 25 large right now,
Right.
right? You just got to clear out by tomorrow. So they buy the shop, the location, you know what I mean, and set up the school.
So let's give a little bit of background about Zeis. I mean, I know we jumped right into the school thing.
How did he make his first machine?
Yeah, let's talk about that, man.
What did he make his first machine out of?
So, and that's in this book.
Yeah, that's in this
So
book.
this isn't something that's like we're pulling out of the air, folks. This is actually in the book. Milton Zeis actually created his first tattoo machine with the motor of a female pleasure product. Don't say the word. I don't want to get.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Really?
Yes, they are very strict about that.
Did you know that? Did you know that earthquakes cause
vibrations?
Vibrations.
Yes.
Or you know, I like that Beach Boys song.
Good vibrations.
Good vibrations.
Yes, yes. Great song. Great song. So yeah, I mean, who'd have thought that? I mean,
Here,
I would like to know what year that was that he did that.
I'm going to actually do a quick I'm going to do a quick Google search.
So while you're doing that, I'll give you guys some background about Milton Zeis because we've seen pictures of him. There's not a lot of pictures out there of Milton Zeis. And, you know, he does pop up a lot in a bunch of different people's backgrounds when you do some type of research on them. Milton Zeis just keeps popping up here and there. He was born in 1901, died in 1972, so he's been gone for quite a while. He was kind of, you know, caught the bug of tattooing when he was on a Mississippi riverboat with his father. It had like a profound impact on him. And like the fascination in tattooing kind of started there. And then he also, you know, as a young kid, enjoyed doing like the circus and stuff like that, which back then a lot of people were the tattooed lady, the tattooed man, blah, blah, blah.
So I just did the Google search.
Okay.
What year do you think the that particular device was created?
I'm going to say 1940s.
No. Nope.
Oh, you mean the first?
No, electric.
I don't know.
It was patented in the 1880s.
Wow. So that's been going for quite a while.
Yeah,
man.
let me see when the light bulb was created.
Did it come before the light bulb? Bump. Anyway, yeah, so he lived in a small town, Rockford, Illinois, which Medusa found out or said that's where his family's from.
1 year prior.
So they had the light bulb came out, and then automatically somebody was working on building a secondary device. Nice.
Guy must have been
priorities, man.
Yeah,
Priorities.
guy must have been married.
There you go. He also had a mail order business, and he had Zeis Studios in Rockford. And then in his basement, he operated a supply business, and he also tattooed on the other side of his basement. And for 20 years, he sold flash, pigments, machines, and other supplies. But they also state in here that flash has always been a major part of suppliers' business, and Zeis offered black and white sheets and was one of the first to offer colored flash. Which is interesting because I had always heard J.D. Crowe was the first one to offer colored flash, but I guess Zeis at some point must have done it.
And incidentally, the first it was to help tired muscles.
Oh yeah.
It was
to massage like your back and stuff, not to I got you.
Not to treat female hysteria.
Let's get to some of these comments because I'm sure there's been some people chiming in here real quick.
You know that's what they called that, right?
I just said queef.
Yeah, we're demonetized.
Yeah, man.
I can't say
my money for this.
I
episode.
can't say vuh.
Yep. Bill O'Connell said, "Hey Buck, love the interview you did with Sailor Eddie. Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You know, it took me a long time to put that or to get that together. quite a few conversations, and I'm super happy that I did it. And to be fair, I actually said it during the interview. I was pretty intimidated to even ask him to do it. So, um, I'm glad he finally broke down and did it with me. Medusa's Noggin said, solid piece, Chris. A bunch of people gave Chris props for his tattoo that he had. And then Fat Cracker,
of course,
said, what's that going to look like when she gets older? The 100-year-old lady getting a tattoo. Well, pretty sure it's going to look exactly like the day she left the shop. Unless, I don't know. Although they did find a bunch of people that are 130 plus years old recently. So, classic book Justin, what's up, Loves? How you doing? Artie hanging out. And Fat Cracker said that's like Artemis charging $1,200 today for a shoe tattoo course. Speaking of the Zeis $120 tattoo school, and it's online only. I'm not going to say Nikki, our moderator's comment. Fat Cracker said that's what they call pen machines today. Nikki R, moderator, must be Googling away, said that particular device was created to help cure female hysteria. And it was used to treat female hysteria, in some cases still is. Interesting.
So there was a pretty interesting show called Taboo that had Tom, the guy that played Venom,
Tom Hardy
in it, and his half sister receives a treatment. Her husband decides that she needs to be treated for female hysteria.
Okay.
And they show the treatment in the show, like she's actually.
Okay, let's not get into details of it, but
no, I mean it's almost I mean it was an FX show, so it's not like completely graphic, but
yeah.
I mean what a
what a
time.
crazy, yeah, man.
Yeah, when you could just have a doctor come and tie your wife down.
Medusa's Noggin said, yes, indeed. Thank you for all the hard work on the Eddie episode. It was kind of weird, man. I was expecting a little bit of pushback on some of the comments that he made. I really didn't get any. He called a couple people out, and I think, man, he could come off abrasive. He's like Eric Perfect. He can kind of come off as like crass or a little abrasive, but in reality, they're really nice guys. They're not. It's just their demeanor. It's how they're, you know what I mean? And plus, you got to figure, man, Eddie growing up in a tattoo shop, he was around a lot of crazy stuff, man, back as a kid. And it kind of blew my mind that his grandparents took him everywhere with him. Like when he was talking about going down and to visit Paul Rogers and swimming in the ocean in his underwear, you know what I mean, at like 9 years old or whatever.
Absolutely.
It's just nuts to me that, people that we consider legends and whatnot, he just was kind of like, they were like aunts and uncles to him, man. It just blows my mind. And, I have to tell you, I spent probably an hour talking to him before we started, and I probably should have started recording at the beginning. But we also talked for probably an hour afterwards, man. And, he actually showed me his grandpa's favorite tattoo. I'm going to get it. So it was his grandfather's favorite tattoo to do, and I'm going to get it. I'm going to have him do it, put it on my leg with my American traditional sleeve that I'm working on, and I'm going to have him do it, man. So,
years ago, Buck, I was in Chinatown in a tattoo shop, and they were getting ready to shut down. So the one guy started to vacuum, and as he's vacuuming, I see his shoulder rig, and he's got like a Glock in there and a shoulder rig.
Right.
Chinatown in Philly. So
back then it was rough.
I mean,
it's still rough, actually.
I mean, sorta.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Arch Street.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just what it was, right?
Yeah.
Shotgun underneath the counter.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I don't I don't necessarily think that um, old tattooers, older tattooers are just. It was a rougher time.
Yeah, it was a different time, man, and you know, I think that that's when people watch these episodes, they need to take some of that into consideration. You know, yeah, he talked about current day stuff in there, but in reality, a lot of the stuff he's talking about is just his recollection of his past and growing up at that shop and you know, having the different people that came through to you know, work at that shop with his grandparents. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, Sailor Eddie and Esther are like legends, man. I mean, I was really curious about that whole process, and you know,
She hated black.
I called it the assembly line, and you know, and he
Yeah.
was just like, "Nah, man, she just hated black." So you know, Paul and Eddie, Sailor Eddie, did the outline. He said, so Sailor Eddie would do the outline. Paul Rogers would do the shading, and then they would send them down to Esther, and Esther would do the color.
Pretty him up. She said, "I'll pretty him up."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and the other cool thing that I didn't know that until I had the interview with him was because you know, obviously I walk into these interviews with research. I'm not going to walk in there blind. And he very much appreciated the fact that I did my homework before I went in there. So, um, but you know, I didn't realize that she was part of, you know, the group that was, he called them building recipes for the pigments to come up with colors and stuff like that. Like, from what I understand, you know, Esther was very well known for her green.
Which was notoriously difficult to work with.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about Paul doing the shading is that that's why Paul was able to get in with Coleman
Hmm.
because Coleman, you know, people would come into Coleman's shop and say, I saw this thing that you did on a guy, and it would be Rogers because Rogers shaded exactly, and without being taught, he shaded intuitively the way that Coleman did. So it totally made sense that Rogers was the shader guy.
And hopefully you made it to the end of the episode because I actually put
I
up some very cool pictures. There is a picture that I put up, and all most of those pictures actually came from Sailor Eddie's personal collection, by the way. But I put up a picture of it's Coleman and Rogers standing in the backyard of somebody's house, and there's a guy in the middle of it. Eddie didn't know who the person was, and I asked him at the time. I said, you know, was this the Sandusky Tattoo Club? Because that's what it looked like to me. And he said he wasn't sure. He didn't think it was, but you know, it could be because they don't know who the person in the middle was. Um, but then he also had another picture which he allowed me to post, and it's towards the end of the video, and it's a picture of Colonel Todd's wife, Helen Rogers, Paul Rogers' wife, and Al Shifley, and they're like in a kitchen hanging out, and Al Shifley's like smoking a cigarette, and it's like, dude, to have those pictures and those memories of people that we are like, you know, we're not worthy, and they're in his family's like photo albums, dude. That's pretty mind blowing to me, man. I mean, he said that you know, he wished he could have met Cap Coleman, but you know, um, he also said the story about Coleman hooking up the battery to the brass plate on the front of the door because sailors notoriously like to piss on the doors of establishments, and he said, dude, you know, he could see a sailor walking up or could hear him starting to relieve himself, and he would flip a switch, man, and it would juice him for pissing on his door.
Nice.
I'm like, dude, uh, you know, Cap Coleman was a strange, you know, eccentric person.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing with the food cans, Coleman was notoriously cheap, so he would buy dented, unlabeled cans, you know, and just whatever.
well,
What are we having for dinner tonight? He'd open the can.
thank you for saying that because you know what, it actually brings me to another thing that I probably should have pressed more on this, but you know, we in this day and age think of tattoo artists, especially like some of these bigger name people, right? Uh, like uber rich, got all kinds of money, driving fancy cars, and they're doing Instagram reels and they're showing their you know, $150,000 car and all this stuff. But the people that we considered legends back in the day, they weren't necessarily rich by any means. I mean, Sailor Eddie talks about, you know, Sailor Eddie and Esther living in a mobile home, and Paul Rogers lived a couple doors down in a mobile home. You know what I mean? Like those, they weren't rich. Um, Neither was Paul Rogers. Neither was Cap Coleman. They were just grinding and pumping out work, making a living, man. It wasn't about being this like rich, internationally known person. And Eddie even talks about it. He was like, um, I don't know if he said his grandfather said it or one of the numerous other people that came in through the shop, but they were like, you know what, man, we didn't give a shit about what the guy in California thought or what the guy over in Hawaii thought. All we cared about was the guy that was down the street pumping gas that was going to come here to get a tattoo, or the guy that worked at Campbell's Soup Factory that would, squirrel away a couple bucks here and there to come down here and get a tattoo. Those are the only people we cared about. That alone is enough to show you the complete flip side of what it is today for most people. For them, it was for the love of the game, not about the money.
Yeah.
Obviously, you wanted to make money, right? You wanted to be a successful business person, but it wasn't about being rich and famous. It was about, I love to do tattoos. I make good money off of it. I can raise a family off of it.
And also about the freedom.
The freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, I'm allowed to get my face tattooed.
Well, whatever. But when you say freedom, though, you mean like you're not clocking in like at a factory job.
Right.
But from what I understand, Cap Coleman, Sailor Eddie, and Esther, they were pretty regimented, man. Like they were like at the shop, boom, on time, every time. And then I even said to Eddie, they talked about it down in Norfolk, and I didn't know this until I was at the Norfolk, and we did this like little seminar where Chuck Eldridge talked about all the tattooing that happened in Norfolk, where Cap Coleman, like at 5 o'clock, man, didn't matter where he was at in your tattoo. He wiped you down, patted you on the ass, and was like, "Come back tomorrow or whenever you can, we'll finish it." Because 5 o'clock came, man, he was ready to go home, eat dinner with his wife.
Yep.
So you say freedom, but those guys were also very regimented,
right? Because a person like so as a shop owner, right? The shop will always be cleaner when I'm here. The people, no matter how much the people that work for me care,
it's never going to be as clean as how you want it because it's your business,
right?
Because you care about it,
because it's mine,
right?
It belongs to me,
right?
And it is like a terrible responsibility, like the fact that I literally have no one to report to,
right?
Like
because you could be the detriment to yourself.
Yeah, it's the old joke. I want to take the day off to go riding on my bike. Okay, you're my favorite employee.
Yeah. Fat Cracker said this, and I can't put it up there because I don't want to put the curse word up there, but he said, Eddie said, black and gray tattoos looked unfinished. Ha ha ha. That was his FU to California Fine Line Tattooing.
And I was talking to a guy one time about Sailor Eddie, and a guy that worked for Sailor Eddie that owns a leather store now.
Okay.
And he was saying that Eddie bought like a boat one summer.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a boat.
Okay.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the summer, he didn't have the money to buy the boat, and by the end of the summer,
he bought a boat.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that those guys didn't make money, but I'm just saying like they weren't living lavish lifestyles.
Oh no, they weren't. Yeah,
right. Fat Cracker said a lot of the West Coast dudes talked a lot of shit about East Coast tattooers and vice versa. And that's the truth. And Eddie actually says that in the interview where he talks about like, California guys couldn't cut it here. And, Philadelphia Eddie went out to the West Coast and he found out real quick he couldn't cut it out there. It's different. It's different lifestyles, man. For anybody that's ever been, traveled, I found out real quick, dude, that, when I moved to Arizona, we're much more fast paced than people on the West Coast.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, jobs or whatever, they think that that's kind of like abrasive and standoffish because you're so like boom, 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 let's go. Like I remember the first time I went to the grocery store, I thought I was gonna lose my shit because the chick, she may have been blazed up or whatever, for all I know.
Yeah, I mean, she was from the West Coast. She was probably.
But she literally was like this, dude, pulling the stuff across the thing. She was just like,
So you know what's wild to me about the supermarket?
beep. And I'm like, yo, let's go. I gotta go. I want to get out of here, man.
So what's wild to me, and it reminds me of a thing in The Simpsons, where Apu has to move in with the Simpsons, and him and Marge are shopping, and he's like, "Go use that line because it's all single men." And it's just them going like ching ching, like one after the other, paying for their stuff, right? So you're behind somebody in the grocery store after she gives you the fat card thing to insult you, and then when they come up and ask her for her money, right? She she now has to go in her purse,
Oh, dude, she was fumbling, fumbling,
right?
fumbling.
Right?
I almost busted out my card to be like, yo, I got this,
Did
just to
you?
get her.
Yeah. Did you not know? Did you not know that you were going to have to pay for your groceries at the end of this particular exchange?
So Fat Cracker said that's why it's called in a New York minute. Perfect way to put it, dude. Bill O'Connell said, I love and respect so much the way Eddie spoke to of his clients and how to treat them. Yeah, I mean, when he gets in there and he starts to really break down about like how he feels as though that the shops that won't make it in this day and age, especially with the economy, because I had said, oh well, do you think it had to do with COVID money or whatever, and he said, no, it's really, there was so much money coming in for some of these new shops that they really never understood how to treat their clientele. But us old guys that have been around a long time that know what it's like every election year, we know it's going to get slow. We know when this is going to get slow. We know how to kind of coddle and like help out to keep business flowing. Where those people might not have done that and they're just like, yeah, whatever, give me my money, boom, next. You know what I mean?
See, a thing in tattooing is you can't choose who likes your work. You can't choose who wants to get heavily tattooed by you. I don't know if other businesses are exactly like that. Like there's people that I have long business relationships with, being their tattooer, that I might necessarily not have any other kind of relationship with,
Right,
if not for the shop.
So Sarah said, I just got back from vacation to the west coast of Canada, got a new tattoo, and now I've been tattooed on both East Coast and West Coast. There you go. That's awesome. Tom, what's up, Tom? Tom just stopped in.
What's
He
up,
said,
Tom?
what's
Thanks
up,
for
guys?
the video, bro. I appreciate that.
Just got back from the Marilyn Manson show. Haha. Glad to catch the end. There you go.
What so to get back to Zeis real quick.
Yep.
Right? So Jonesy sold his defective machines to Zeis. You know that, right? So if
Yeah, I'd heard that. I
like
mean,
I don't want to say defective, his subpar machines.
yeah.
The machines he wasn't going to sell to his buddies. And that says something about what the existing artists thought of Zeiss's stuff, right? I mean, if we're in business together and I'm selling you a subpar product, that's not a show of respect, right?
Right.
So how much did they respect Zeiss?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a curious thing that I'd love to dig deeper into to see.
And I
But
mean, and at the time there was there was the terrible hatred, right, among the different little
yeah, the clicks.
the cliques.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's going to happen no matter what time frame you're talking about. Whether it's early 1900s all the way to current day. There's going to be cliques of people that are like this pocket of people, this pocket of people. Like we've talked about that before, where it was like
I don't want
the
to go to that convention.
or the
Yeah.
like Rollo, Kate Hildebrand, and then there's this group, that says this about Sailor Jerry. So there's like this weird, dynamic that happens. And,
The Philadelphia Eddie Billy Funk.
yeah, there's that.
Mhm.
There was a beef back in the day between Philadelphia Eddie and Sailor Eddie. That Eddie said that he did his thing to squash some of that. But there's always going to be some kind of weird friction and whatever. And I think it's, some of it might be competition, some of it might be jealousy, depending on who you're talking about. But it's just going to happen, man. I mean, this is it's the way of the world, man. I just found it like super interesting that we're sitting here talking about this today with the Milton Zeis School of Tattooing, and common or current day, we're hearing from people that are like, hey man, shut down any tattoo school, shut this down, shut that down, no kitchen magicians, no teach yourself, right. And it's there's I don't know, I don't want to say you got to have it both ways, but I don't agree with people doing it outside of a tattoo shop, because you're going to learn bad habits and you're not going to learn the proper way to do things. But there was a lot of old guys, old timers that were self-taught and did some crazy stuff to tattoo back in the day. So who's right and who's wrong? It's going to be one of those things that we'll never get a straight answer.
So the thing too is that, I have faith that tattooing is it's self-correcting, right? Like, I think a lot of people are discovering that it's boring to sit in an empty shop, that it really is work,
Right.
that it does require self-discipline, that it's not all parties and hot girls and cocaine,
Right.
and,
And look, man,
that
there's
it isn't like
physically bad. It could be rough on your body. Like how many older guys talk about their back being shot from being bent over?
so when you went on the road with bands,
Yep.
how long did it take for you to realize that it was work? The first day?
Oh yeah, it was pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was instantaneous almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't just gonna be on the bus with
Yeah.
the band partying with the groupies?
Nah.
Yeah.
There was no such thing.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but
But
yeah.
but for real.
Yeah. Tom said, don't know if this has been said, but wasn't the Zeiss School slightly different because there was nowhere near the amount of artists? Well, part of that might be true, Tom, but also the main part of the difference at this point would be the fact that it was a correspondence school. It wasn't like you sitting in a classroom tattooing and having somebody look at your work and double checking your stuff. It was like, you did some work, you sent it in to him, sent it back, he kind of reviewed it, blah blah blah. So scroll back to the beginning of this and you'll catch some of that story. Kind of hones in on the differences. It's not the difference, but it's probably one of the main points. But Bill O'Connell just said, hey Justin, glad to see you're feeling and doing better, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a pretty cool episode, man. I thought it was a cool topic. And like we always say, if you want to talk about something or want us to talk about something, please feel free to hit us up and tattoosandreview@gmail.com. Hit us up on one of our social media, Facebook. Don't forget we have our channel membership. If you'd like to support the channel more than you are with a subscriber, feel free to do that. Look at it. You can see some of the cool perks that we offer. I definitely appreciate it because this isn't cheap to do. So thank you all for hanging out with us, and I hope you have a great night. Be safe. See you next week.